While D&D reckons with its racist past, this actual play is way ahead of the curve. Transplanter RPG started with ideals of trans representation at the table. Just what Dungeons & Dragons needs. Just what it needs is trans representation. This is not it's not a thing that needed to happen. Anybody's allowed to play Dungeons & Dragons. Okay, so I first started playing D&D when I was 7 years old. I played with my brother who was 10 and his friends until I was about 15. And then I discovered the local game store and I began playing there. When I was 15, I played with my first person who was Hispanic. By the time I was 16, I had played with my first person who was black. And by the time I was 17, I had played with the first person I had played with who was Asian. When I was 15, I played with the first girl I'd ever played with. This is not an exclusive hobby. Not an exclusive pastime at all. My last group I was in, there was 2 gay guys, I think. There's 1 gay guy anyway. We don't care. Gamers are gamers are gamers are gamers. They want to play games. They don't care what race you are. They don't care who you want to sleep with. They want to play the game. And you're all welcome to come play with us. Now, before we dive in, we got this image up here I want to take a look at. Look at this. This is just, classic D&D. Yeah. Oh, man. So D&D, I don't even know where to begin. You got a couple of people here of questionable gender who have brown skin and antlers. That's a thing that D&D has. At least classically. I'm talking classically because this newfangled D&D, this is obviously what it is here. I mean, you got a black woman because, medieval Europe was just rife with black people. And then you got a purple-skinned, green-striped individual. The hell is that? Where are the elves? Where are the dwarves? Where are the gnomes? Where are the halflings? Where are the ogres, orcs, goblins? Where are this classic medieval fantasy races? Classic medieval fantasy role-playing game is what Dungeons & Dragons is. If you want to play something else, that's fine. I got no problem with you playing something else. I always play Talislanta. Seriously, play Talislanta. Go to Talislanta Reimagined at blogspot.org. Or is it blogspot.com? It's Blogspot anyway. Just go to Talislanta Reimagined at Blogspot. That version of Talislanta has been cleaned up, streamlined, ready to go. There are no elves. There are no dwarves. There are no orcs. There are so many different weird races in there that you can play. There's a new version of Talislanta coming out right now that they're crowdfunding. It's super woke from what I can see, so I don't plan on participating in it. But hey, if you want to get a new version of it, go ahead and crowdfund it and get a copy of the book when it comes out. Otherwise, the books are free to download online at talislanta.com. You can go there. Talislanta Epic Tabletop Role-Playing Game, the 6th edition. See, they're crowdfunding the 6th edition, but you can get all of the other Talislanta for free. All the other versions. Here we go. They're right here. You can just download them for free and play as these weird different races. Let me see if I can get the image to pop up here. Sometime today, internet. Wow, loading an image. Damn, my internet is slow. There we go. Look at that. You want to play different races? You can play these non-classical medieval fantasy races. Play Talislanta. Or, hey, guess what? Make up your own and play the Dice 6 system. The Dice 6 system is another free download. Just Google Dice 6 system PDF. Download it and play at your heart's content. Any race you want. Hey, guess what? There was a Star Wars role-playing game. Play any race you want, because Star Wars just tosses races out there like they make sense. But this garbage right here, this is not D&D. Okay? If you want to play something that's not D&D, go ahead. I don't care. I'm telling you, do that. Go play Talislanta right now. Man, these people. Before we get started, please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure that you're still subscribed, because YouTube does unsubscribe people every single day. You can find me on Rumble and on Twitter or X, however you like to say it. You might be able to find me on BitShooter Odyssey. Go check out over there. See if you can find me. But let's get into this article now. It's the final boss fight, and everyone at the table is crying, but not because anyone has died. It's because of how performer C. Thomas is handling a game-changing moment between their character, a half-Drow Aasimar blood hunter named Aka Hayan, and the season's biggest bad, Hitsaguten. after all of this is over, my mother is making soup, he says. I mean, they wanna use alternate pronouns. That doesn't say anything to me. I don't know what this person is. I don't know what to think about this person. Oh, I shouldn't be thinking any of those things along any of those lines, right? It's just they're a person. They're a blank slate. Okay, spare me. I really think you would love it. Shank and radish stew. I'll take the meat out of my bowl and put it in yours. This is their attempt to leverage their personal relationship with the big bad to talk her down, rather than launching an attack or presuming violence to be the only form of resolution, and it's just one of dozens of moments from Transplanter RPG that set it apart from other actual play shows. Well, that might be different for a play show, but this is not a new concept. I've always, my whole life, been interested in making my own role-playing game. And I used to make up these games and play test them with people, and one of the people I play tested it with was my cousin. And I was like, yeah, the damage is like really over. You get injured real easy in this game. He's like, yeah, well, that's good because then you can find other ways of resolving your conflict. Not a new concept. Resolve conflict without using violence. Or, hey, if you're going to use violence, make sure you have the upper hand so you don't get killed. It's that simple. At the end of the 2019 Transplanter RPG game master and creative producer, Connie Chang, who uses she, he, they pronouns, because we need to know that. The most important part of this person's existence is the pronouns, which this person, she, by the way, will never have used in her presence. Made a New Year's resolution, started Dungeons & Dragons podcast, initially intended to be an in-person campaign based out of Minneapolis. What became the first Transplanter RPG arc, The Second Stranger, instead debuted on Twitch in 2021 for the platform's ease of use and access. Billed as an all-transgender, people of color-led dark fantasy TTRPG show set in an original, non-colonial, anti-orientalist multiverse. What? Transplanter RPG has grown into an actual play series with a tight-knit community of fans. Wow, so you have to either be non-white or non-straight, I guess non-cis is what they want to say these days, to play in this group. Yet you claim that I am not inclusive. I have never banned anyone from playing my game. I've never said you can't play my game to anybody. I don't care what you look like. I don't care who you sleep with. You want to play a game? Let's play. Wow. Yet I couldn't play with these guys. I would not be allowed to play at this table. How ridiculous. I'm not the bad guy here. This straight white man, not the bad guy in this scenario. Transplanter RPG is currently aired its second main campaign Saturdays on Twitch, with each live show split into 2 podcast episodes released the following Tuesday and Thursday. The series started with Dungeons & Dragons and has now moved on to a complete 16-episode miniseries using Chang's own Godkiller system. The new campaign, The Chaos Protocol, will use a different system for each arc, starting with the Wild Sea by Mythworks. At the end of September, Transplanter RPG put on its first live show at Big Bad Con in Burlingame, California. We got to see what Chang's own Godkiller system is. Let's take a look here. I want to see if there's any information on the system here. I don't think that there's going to be. If the system uses stupid stuff like levels, then we know it's not worth playing. It looks like, judging by this image here, it's a D&D clone. So I'm guessing that it has stupid concepts like levels. But this just appears to be a page where you can go to buy the digital-only download. It was released on June 2023. 1 GM God. The Holy Punk RPG for 1 player, the God Killer, and 1 GM God. The minimum number of people you need to play a role-playing game is 2. That's it. And they're saying like, oh, this game is designed for that. Every game is designed for that. You don't need to have a lot of people to play a game, play a role-playing game. D&D clones, I don't want to have anything to do with them. You got classes and level in there. You know, I'm not a 10th level computer animator. You can't measure my ability in that way. Not only that, there's areas of computer animation that I have not practiced in years that I don't remember really a lot about or how to perform in those areas. But there's other areas where I continue to practice and my skills have been maintained and possibly even improved in. So how do you measure level that way? No, it should be all skill and ability based. It should not be based on your levels. Oh, but levels are so easy because, I know what power level of monster to throw at my players that they can defeat. It will be a challenge for them. Yeah, there's another way you can do that too. It's called points. A much more real-to-life way of dealing with this stuff, this sort of thing. So, anyway, I'll go back to the article here. All right. Although Transplanter RPG technically started as a D&D show, Chang used her education in screenwriting and critical race studies to immediately dismantle most of the core concepts of Wizards of the Coast's infamous rule set. Yeah, I can do that without using my education in screenwriting and critical race studies because I don't have an education in screenwriting and critical race studies. What has Chang written besides this role-playing game? Because I've written a role-playing game and I've written a novel, and I've worked on several other pieces of authorship that I have not completed yet. I do not have any kind of education, formal, anyway, in the area of critical race. It's easy to dismantle the rule set in Dungeons & Dragons. It's been dismantled. It's been rewritten. I bet Chang has never even seen 1st edition or 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons, let alone basic edition Dungeons & Dragons, all 3 of which have different rules. And those rule sets for those 3 versions are radically different from 3rd, 4th, and 5th edition. Not to mention all of the dozens of other games that I've played that have different rule sets. So, ridiculous. Until recently, the system had built-in racial traits. Yes, it did, because races are different in D&D. An elf is not the same as a human. And dice modifiers for its various races, including lore intelligence stats for orcs, and a propensity toward evil for dark-skinned drow, which are a type of elf. Propensity toward evil. That's because Chang has never seen original Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Here we go. This is an excerpt from the Fiend Folio for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, written way back in like 1980 or something. I don't know. I don't have the date on this. I could probably look into it and look it up. But this right here, we see, look, elf, drow, dark elf. Ages passed when the elven folk were but new to the face of the earth. Their number was torn by discord, and those of better disposition drove from them those of the elves who were selfish and cruel. However, constant warfare between the 2 divisions of elvenkind continued, with the goodly ones ever victorious, until those of dark nature were forced to withdraw from the lands under the skies and seek safety in the realm of the underworld. Here, in lightless caverns and endless warrens of twisted passages and caves hung with icicles of stone, the dark elven folk, the drow, found both refuge and comfort. Evil is their very nature. They were born out of cruelty and selfishness. I don't know what else to tell you. And I want to look up here and show you one other thing about these dark elves. Interesting here. Move 12 inches. Oh, females move 15 inches. Now, if you're not a gamer, you might be like, 12 inches, 15 inches, that's slow. Well, that's game board inches, so that's actually pretty fast. 12 and 15 is pretty fast. 15 is a bigger number than 12. The females move faster than the males? Yeah. They live in a female-dominant culture, female-dominant society, female-dominant biology, where the women are bigger and stronger than the men. And somehow, coincidentally, they're evil. I bet this is Chang right here. Very female. Yep, that's Connie Chang. That's Connie Chang's TikTok. Connie Chang looks like a boy to me, doesn't she? To you? Yeah. I use he, she, they. Yeah, sure you do. Dungeons & Dragons publisher Wizards of the Coast has come under significant fire in the past few years for perpetuating racist stereotypes and imagery in its fantasy world, in particular anti-blackness. Last year, the highly anticipated 5th edition release of Spelljammer Adventures in Space, including a race created in 1982 called the Hadozi, formerly enslaved simian creatures with art that evoked racist minstrel shows. Really? Well, let's take a look here. Here they are. There we go. There's the Hadozi. It looked like, medieval fantasy performers to me. The only way you can think this is racist is if you think that black people are somehow more closely related to simians than other people are. If you think that way, that's your problem. Don't bring it into my game. Idiots. This was a huge step backwards for Wizards, which came out against racism and owned its role in perpetuating it during the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests. Following the Spelljammer controversy, Wizards apologized and revised errata for the Hadozi and the Spelljammer Adventures in Space, set as a whole in a free PDF. The newer editions of the printed books also feature these revisions. Cultural consultants now play a bigger role in reviewing content for D&D books prior to publication, but many people began stepping away from the system even before Spelljammer Adventures in Space. Yeah, that's because the system is crap. Don't play D&D. There's so many other games out there that are so much better. And what role did Wizards of the Coast play in the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests? Do you think that orcs being less intelligent than humans on average is somehow leading to racism on Earth? Really? Orcs are more bestial in nature. They are less evolved intellectually than humans are. Subsequently, they are not as intelligent as humans. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You got to have creatures in the game that are stupider than humans. I mean, it's like saying my dog is as smart as me. No, my dog is not as smart as me. He's much more bestial in nature than I am, because he is a beast. I don't own a dog, by the way, but I have owned dogs in the past. The D&D text itself is extremely troubling, and I think there's been a reckoning in the past couple of years from Wizards itself. They are aware, and I think they are trying to change for the better. Chang says, though she also notes that Transplanter RPG doesn't stand for many of the decisions and declarations made by the publisher. When it comes to building a world that is non-colonial, non-orientalist, and rooted in an anti-racist understanding of fantasy, you really have to interrogate what fantasy is from the ground up. No, you really don't. Define racism, please, for me in the game. Especially, it needs to be defined there. I pointed out Talislanta in the beginning here. We go to the end here and we see the evil races of intelligent creatures, if we can find. There we go. I think these are called Orcs. These are called the Za, and these are the Mundrakan. The Mundrakan are kind of iffy as to whether or not they're evil, but the Za and the Orcs are definitely evil. Do you want the players to fight against intelligent creatures in the game? Bipedal creatures with claws and hands that can manipulate tools, cast spells against you, can use a crossbow against you. Do you want that sort of thing in the game? Or do you want to say, all intelligent creatures are capable of being any moral compass that they want to be? It's fine. I don't understand where these people are coming from. I don't get this. This doesn't make sense to me. All right. Chang created Transplanter RPG's first arc, The Second Stranger, which is set in Andake, an anti-Orientalist realm based on Asian mythologies. What the hell is Orientalism, by the way, here? Orientalism. Is that a thing? Did I spell it right? I didn't spell it right. Orientalism. In art, history, literature, and culture studies, Orientalism is the imitation or depiction of aspects of the Eastern world by writers, designers, and artists from the Western world. Are you saying it's inherently racist then because it's not the people from the Orient creating this artwork? Or are you saying that historically speaking, these works of art have been misleading and subsequently racist in nature? These people, man, whatever. After the cataclysm, the realm is plunged into darkness, gods disappear, and monsters spawn everywhere. 4 divine heroes are called upon to save the world through sacrifice, and they are joined by 4 ordinary heroes who strive to create their own destinies. Though fans love all 10 player characters who appear in the story, Thomas Oka Hyen stands out for how he grows from a monstrous broken human to someone who realizes he can give love and deserve it in return. Oka Hyen is not a broken human. He's half elf. That was stated in the beginning. He's part dark elf. If that's so important, then how come we're referring to him as human now? Likewise, Valiant Dorian's Vaska, who uses she pronouns, a Yuan-Ti bard who gives up her wandering lifestyle when she falls in love, stands out for how she leaves behind her home when the cataclysm gives her visions of destruction. Her story centers on how she reconciles the different parts of her during the war for the future of Andake. Yuan-Ti are evil. They are snake people. They have no legs. Instead, they have a snake body, basically. The upper body of them is like a human. They have arms. Yuan-Ti are evil. They've always been evil. Why do you need... I mean, it's okay to change these things. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But you got to have somebody to fight in the game. You got to have some sort of way of having conflict in the game. I think Yuan-Ti are cool. If you want to make them good, go right ahead. Nothing against that. But who do you have to take their place when it comes down to who the bad guys are? We think about people in our world and their relationship to each other and what conflict could look like without racism, which a lot of people insist can't work, Chang says, in which case I say you just have a tiny imagination. It's honestly more rewarding to build campaigns with conflict where race is not just a natural, uninterrogated part of the conflict or even a part of the world building, but is specifically critically interrogated and said to everyone above the table and at the table, this is not a part of our story. Okay. So this lady, all races are created equal. So this 12-foot giant over here, he's just as strong as the halfling. He's not any stronger than the halfling. It's okay to have differences in the races. I don't get why you can't. Why can't you have differences in the races? I don't understand. Can somebody out there please go on in the comments and explain this to me, because it doesn't make sense. Why can't you have differences in the races? Racism is an inherent part of the human existence. I'm not saying it's okay. It just is. So it's not a stretch to believe that people who live in an actual world where there's multiple species of intelligent creatures would have thoughts about those other peoples that are negative. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, human beings go around othering other human beings all of the time. Why wouldn't other sentient creatures do it too? I mean, maybe they wouldn't, but please give me an explanation as to why. The content that we make is not for everyone, adds Thomas. It challenges specifically white audiences in a lot of ways, especially white cis audiences. Oh, yeah. It's clearly challenging me right now because I have no idea what you're talking about. Insofar as the story really unwraps a lot of white puritanical values of good and evil. Oh, okay. And it's interesting to see our fans contend with that sometimes. And sometimes they can and sometimes they can't. So are you telling me that my value system says that people who are white are good, people who aren't white are not good? Oh, man. I hate to break it to you, but my wife's not white. And I love the dickens out of her. Oh, don't know what to tell you. Thomas recalls an episode in the Second Stranger Arc 4 in which Oka returns home after years away. He challenges his parent, the Emperor, to a duel, and the Emperor makes a decision that, were an in-game artifact not in play, would have killed Oka. Thomas says it was a story-driven choice that I had asked for as a player, but one viewer was upset enough about the scene that they took to the Transplanter RPG Discord to register their dislike by cursing out Chang in one of the main discussion channels. Sounds like Chang needs a lot more than a cursing out. I think it stemmed from a lot of projects about Oka's relationship with his family, influenced again by a puritanical understanding of conflict, sacrifice, and the complexity of their backstory and how it interacted with the world. Okay, so, the hero's journey is very specific, and it's very easy for us to go into story and say, hey, look, good and evil is very black and white. We don't want to confuse the audience by having all this nuance in there. We want it to be very simple, very black and white. And most viewers and most people prefer that way of thinking about their stories. That's why that trope exists and has existed for, shocking, I know, thousands of years. And of course, feeling like Connie pulled a DM move that was too hard, taking away player agency by killing a PC, even though we had talked about it extensively beforehand, and it was my idea. Chang has spoken about her approach to world building in a free workshop posted on the Transplanter RPG YouTube channel. In a practical sense, this approach to playing D transforms the game into something almost totally detached from stereotypical ideas about what an actual play looks like. Still, Transplanter RPG references D&D in its branding because it's much more recognizable, according to Thomas. It's not hard to break away from D&D. I just mentioned 2 games in this that break away from D&D radically. And there's hundreds of more. There's like 1,000 different role-playing games out there. Go play one that isn't Dungeons and Dragons. These people are lost. It's because they don't have knowledge. They live in a bubble. If you're not in the TTRPG bubble, exactly, I'm not. So that's why I don't understand you people. You're not going to reach out to a Monster of the Week podcast the same way you might reach out to a D&D podcast, says Thomas. After having built up an audience and delving deeper into how far D&D can take us, it raised another question. How far can this game push us until it actually is just becoming a broken cog in the wheel of our story? As Transplanter RPG explores new systems, its community goes along for the ride. Cosplayer and film student Erica says Dungeons & Dragons has been her hyper-focus since the COVID-19 pandemic began. She started the second Stranger after seeing TTRPG content creator Madeline Mason recommend the show on TikTok, and immediately they became attached to Thomas's character. I saw Oka and all of the characters in Transplanter, and Oka uses the same pronouns as me. No, you don't get your own pronouns, just like you don't get your own adverbs or adjectives. It was like the floodgates open. Connie split the Red Sea, and I was like, oh, I deserve to see myself in media. Erica says, noting that she grew up in a small town where being queer was a big deal, she added. Just seeing representation is so empowering, especially when it's not necessarily experiences that are mine. I am a queer person. I'm a non-binary person. Not a made-up person. Okay, got it. But I'm also white, and I grew up in predominantly white institutions. I'm not perfect. Being white is imperfect. Oh, I didn't realize. Thank you for clarifying that for me. If D&D is a coloring book, Connie chose the colors and then painted a picture they wanted to see. Erica says, noting the show's use of montage sequences and monologue mechanics, which allow players to challenge how the rules typically work and create stronger storylines that aren't as reliant on dice rolls. All the things Connie changed in 5e really work for Transplanter's platform, she says. Erica recently shared her love of Oka in the cosplay at Fan Expo Canada, which Thomas cited as the character's first ever cosplay in the wild, in an appreciation tweet. Erica is just one of many fans of the show. Transplanter RPG has grown its platform to 6,500 followers on Twitch and nearly 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's also getting more public recognition, including a nomination for Best Podcast at this year's Annie Awards. Chang has appeared on Dimension 20 and the official Dungeons & Dragons channel and has been interviewed by the New York Times and NRPG about D&D. You know, I don't think I'm going to finish this because I don't think it's going to be worth it. You get the idea. These people want to exclude people like me from their game because I am clearly evil, because I want to uphold evil tropes of good and evil. What the? No. You can have nuance. Got no problem with that. Adding that into your game. But I also want to know who the bads are. Having bad people be intelligent, but having an entire race of intelligent creatures being evil, it's not a bad thing. I don't understand how that's a bad thing. Please explain to me how that's a bad thing. Oh, but I want to play that race. They're cool. Oh, well, maybe every once in a while they have one that's good that comes along. And now you have an actual role-playing situation where you have to convince all of your fellows that you're not evil like the rest of your race. Wow. Mind blown. What a concept. It was done very famously in a book series that started in the 1980s called the Dark Elf series. If you haven't read it, it's still being written, as I understand. I haven't checked lately, but it's got like 40 books in the series. So, you know, something that might be fun for you. But anyway, man, this stuff, I just want to take everything and poop all over it. Anyway, anything that's good, they want to poop all over it. Oh, man, I don't get it. Thank you for watching if you made it this far, and I do appreciate it. Now here's your palate cleanser.